Hi guys, I'm Binu and today I'm gonna take you through my process behind this looping animation based on Adventure Time. Adventure Time is an amazing series that was created by Pendleton Ward that spanned over 10 seasons on Cartoon Network. This specific animation is based off of the designs of Finn and Jake as shown on the TV special called Adventure Time Distant Lands, where they were shown much younger than they were actually shown on the original TV show. So let's get started on the animation process. I started off by doing some rough sketches that would show Baby Finn and Teen Jake interacting and playing with each other. And these are the three main shots that I came up with. But we decided on proceeding with this one because it had quite an interesting angle and that it could be painted to give out some cozy and rainy vibes, and there were a lot of interesting elements that could be animated in this one. I wanted it to be a nighttime scene with rain falling, so I needed the primary colors of this to be blues. With that in mind, I collected a bunch of reference images that showcase nighttime and rain in the world of Adventure Time. Using these references, I created a suitable color palette that would fit this scene perfectly. So using these colors, I did a rough color block so that I can finalize my colors to be used on this piece. I'm using some adjustment layers here on top of Finn and Jake so that they blend in with the colors of the background properly, and I went through a couple of iterations changing around the colors until I was completely satisfied with it. After the color blocking was done, I moved on to creating the actual elements that I would be using on my animation using the rough drawing as a reference. I started by doing the sketchy lines on top of the rough drawing that I made earlier. Also, personally, I like to keep my canvas color at a dark shade of grey as it reduces eye strain for me when I keep drawing for long periods of time. And then the clean ink lines. And then the colors. After the coloring process was done, I exported all the different layers of the drawing as PNG images with transparent backgrounds separately. And on to Blender we go. So I'm bringing in all of these layers onto Blender as image planes and arranging them in order while setting the specular to 0 in material properties so that it displays the actual color of the image. I started off by animating the ruffs for Jake's hair in a new grease pencil object, and I wanted the hair to flow in the wind slowly so that there's some nice and cozy breeze coming towards them but not too harshly. And then I'm playing it again back and forth to see if I'm getting the nice slow movements that I want out of it. After drawing out the main keyframes, I'm adding more in betweens to make the animation much more smoother. Now I'm using a time offset modifier and setting it to influence this layer according to the keyframes that I've used. Now I'm checking if the hair is swaying according to the way that I want it to. After that, I brought out some layers to the front using the move tool in object mode and arranged them in order so that I can animate some elements in between. After bringing them out, I used the S key to scale them accordingly using the viewport as a guide. Now I'm using the sketch layer of the hair as a reference and animating the clean ink lines on a layer above that. Also, quick little tip, if the layers aren't aligning properly after adding the time offset modifier, turn it off and animate on the inking layer as you normally would. That worked out for me. And now I'm animating on a layer underneath the inking layer using a solid fill material for his hair color. Also, I'm adding some lines over here to give more detail to his hair. And I'm using a mask at the back of his hair to create some shadows by using a black color material set to the multiply blending mode while bringing the opacity down a bit. So this is what his hair looks like completely animated. I brought in Finn with just his face without his head here, so I'm gonna set this face plane to alpha clip under the material properties, and I've created a new grease pencil object below my 2D planes to animate his head on. I'm creating a new stroke layer with just the base, which will stay static, while I'm creating two different layers for the two ears of his cap to be slightly animated in the wind. I'm using the same method here as before, where I put down keyframes and animate the in-betweens afterwards to make the animation smoother. And I'm coloring the ears by picking the color of his cap from the reference image and assigning that color to a new material. At this point, I ran into a small bug where my masks were glitching out in grease pencil where they would not appear in the final render, and I was like, oh my god! So what I did for this was that I created a layer on top of his cap chose my shadow material and just set it to multiply with a lower opacity while staying inside my inking lines without setting it up as a mask. Using the same animating process as earlier, I set the top part layer of the umbrella to alpha clip and animated the flaps to move in the wind. I made them move a bit more frantically than the rest of the elements over here, as this would be lighter in weight and it would be affected much more by the wind. Next comes my favorite part, animating Finn's legs moving up and down. Here I started out by drawing out two key poses where each of the legs would get their turn at being held up in the air. I used the sculpt tool here a bit as well to match up the two drawings with the exact proportions, and then I went back into the usual animating process where I lay down my keyframes and add the in-betweens to make it smoother. I went back and forth on this part quite a bit to get the exact speed of the leg movements, because I didn't really want the legs to move too fast as it would break away from the relaxed and laid back tone of the animation. After I was happy with the pace of the movements, I inked and colored the legs as done previously while adding in a time offset modifier to make it loop. I used the method where I set a layer to multiply with the opacity down to create the shadows for Finn's legs as well. And now I wanted Finn's eyes to blink as well, but since the grease pencil layer was set behind the face plane and that plane was set to alpha clip, I created a new grease pencil object in front of Finn's face this time. And then I created a solid on top of his existing eyes using the color of his face and blocked the old eyes out. And then I animated his eyes to blink on a new layer on top of this solid base that I had made. I duplicated these keyframes throughout my timeline while giving equal amounts of pauses between these blinks. I wanted to add some stars to the background since this is a night sky, so I looked at how the stars work in scenes of adventure time to start with. So as you can see in this scene, they have some stars that stay static on the sky while some stars twinkle in place. So I created a new light blue colored material and drew out the stars. They needed a glow effect, so I went into the effects panel and added a glow from there with the color of the star, and I adjusted the X and Y size to get the right amount of glow around the stars. After creating the static layer of stars, I created some new layers of stars where they would pop in and out of view from time to time. I also animated a comet to shoot across the screen using the same material, and I applied the time offset modifier so that it repeats from time to time. Also, since this is a rainy scene, I animated some raindrops dripping down from the umbrella and from the telescope as well using a white stroke material. And finally, I exported the whole scene out using the viewport render and brought it over to After Effects for compositing. There, I used the CC rainfall effect and played around with the settings of this effect until I got the look that I wanted. And with a little bit of sound editing, this is the final result. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. And before you go, I'd like to thank all our awesome patrons on Patreon. And if you haven't already, consider supporting us on Patreon. We've got 2 tiers for general support and another that gives you access to some of our behind the scenes content and sneak peeks of our future projects. And this is Binu signing off. We'll catch you guys on the next one.